Grantee Network Institute. We certainly look forward to seeing you all there who have registered for the Institute in San Diego. So, next slide. So in today's webinar, we will be covering the following topics, specifically the budget revision, capital outlay requests, the year-end reporting that are required from all CCPT grantees, the student momentum points, and the progress report narrative. There will be time for question and answer period after each topic, and we will try to address as many questions as we can within the time allotted. Any questions that you post that we are not able to get to and answer, rest assured that we will provide you with the answers via email. We will also be compiling all the questions and answers in an FAQ document, which will be shared with all of you. So again, we will be breaking for questions after every topic, and the first topic that I will be covering is the budget revision. Before I go on to the budget revision, I just want to quickly take a minute to review the role of the fiscal agent. And most, if not all of you, are participating in this webinar this morning. As fiscal agent, you are the lead applicant in the grant and your consortium lead applicant, and you are the primary point of contact with CDE. So Karen and myself, Abby, are the two CCPT consultants assigned to the California Career Pathways Trust. And we have half of the grantees, Karen has, and half of the grantees I have. You know who you are. And so sometimes we get inquiries directly from your LEA partner or business partners. Karen and I will usually direct them to you as fiscal agent program managers. Depending on the nature of the inquiries, we are happy to provide guidance and technical assistance. In the last couple of weeks, if we get emails regarding concerns or issues, rest assured that we notify you of those concerns, and we also share those type of concerns with you. So as fiscal agent, and on this slide here, I'm not going to read them to you word for word, but you have primary oversight of budget breakouts and stewardship of all expenditures under the grant. You are responsible for submission of all fiscal and performance reports. These include the budget revisions, the reporting on the annual reports for progress narrative, and the student momentum points and data points that are required at year end. You are also responsible for reviewing and submission all of capital outlay requests to CDE, and we will cover that process in details in the next slide. And finally, you're responsible for all closeouts, to conduct all closeout procedures at the conclusion of the grant. So the next slide is updated documents. We sent these updated documents to you a couple of days ago via email. We have updated the following documents: the capital outlay instructions, capital outlay request form, budget change process instructions, the frequently asked questions on the budget, the CCPT student momentum points, consortium progress narrative. You all knew that as consortium points. Based on feedback from a lot of you, we knew that we agreed that consortium points terminology was pretty confusing, so we changed that name to consortium progress narrative, which makes a lot of sense. So thank you for your feedback on that. And finally, we've also updated the frequently asked questions on student momentum points. If you did not get an opportunity to see these documents and review them prior to today's webinar, please make sure that you do so later, and any questions you have, we will be happy to address them. If not today, at a later date, or if you send us an email later on. So please note that these updated versions supersede all prior versions. Also, the FAQ that is currently on CDE's website is an old version, and they will be replaced with the updated FAQs from these updated documents. And we will be doing that pretty soon. The next slide, so now we will begin to review the process for budget revision. And the budget revision is required of all CCPT grantees, the spring and summer budget revision. The deadline to submit your budget revisions on PGMS is July 31st, 2016. The Program Grant Management System, or PGMS, will be active and open on May 16th, 2016, and will close on July 31st, 2016. Our programmer, Hussam, has completed all the fixes on PGMS, and we are testing it this week and next week. We will do a recorded webinar specifically demonstrating the new and improved PGMS budget screens. We will send you a link to the PGMS demo in the next week. We will send that link to the PGMS demonstration along with a link to the archived webinar, which is the webinar that we're doing today. As Tammy had stated earlier, this will be archived so that you can view it later on. And we will announce via our Career Pathways email on when that will be made available. So again, we will do a demonstration of PGMS. It'll be recorded, and the link will be sent to you. So you can see the new screens and walk you through the new versions of the screens. As I said earlier, please note that the spring-summer budget revision and year-end reporting is mandatory for all grantees. As soon as we received your budget revision and year-end reporting, and you have submitted it, and we have reviewed it and approved it, the payments will be processed for the following year. So on the budget revision, and most of you are familiar with this already, so it'll be fairly a review for you, especially the round one grantees. So there hasn't been any change to the process. We're just reviewing it. And for the round two grantees, you are familiar with some of this too, but for some of you, this is going to be your first year reporting year end. Might be a new process for you. So for budget revision, just a reminder that if your budget change request involves an amount that is equal to or greater than 10% in one object code for a single year, or if you are proposing to move funding from one year to the next using the same object code, you are required to submit a formal budget change request letter. And the budget change request instruction has the specific instructions on steps of what you are required to submit. Specifically, when you're submitting a formal budget request letter, the letter has to be signed by your authorized official, and it needs to include a brief description of the budget change request. Needs to also have an explanation concerning the reason for the budget change request, and you need to also supply an attachment displaying a revised budget, clearly showing us the original approved budget and indicating the requested change, and an attachment containing a modified budget narrative that aligns with the revised budget table and explains each revised budget item. In the email that we sent you attachment a couple of days ago, we provided you with a sample budget revision sheet. We provided you with a budget sample revision sheet. So some of you already have your own worksheets. That is fine. Again, that's a sample that we have provided if you would like to do so. Also, please take the time to review the budget FAQ, or frequently asked questions document. We will be posting these FAQs on CDE's website along with new FAQs that result as a result of this today's webinar. So please note that these frequently asked questions documents are working documents, so we will expand upon them as we get more questions from you, and provide them to you via our Career Pathways email. That's the quickest way to get them out to you, because it takes a period of time before it's posted on the CDE's website. And also, we also will make these documents available to you on the digital chalkboard. So if you are not a digital chalkboard community member of the CCPT, please make sure that you do so. And if you need any information on how to do that, please send us an email, and we will provide you with guidance on that. Next slide. So this next slide talks about, applies to consortium development grantees only. So if your name is listed on this slide, can you click for me, Tammy? Okay. If your name is listed on this slide, you are a consortium development grantee, and this information applies to you. A couple of months ago, we sent you a zip file attachment containing reporting instructions, narrative questions, and required forms that you need to submit in order to, as part of your year-end reporting. If you did not get the zip file attachment, please email us, and we would be happy to send them to you again. Now, we will not go over these instructions specifically in today's webinar. However, after reviewing these instructions and documents, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me directly. For the consortium development grantees, by the way, for all 8 of you, I am your assigned consultant, so feel free to contact me directly, or email me or call me if you have any questions regarding the requirements for your application / reporting. So the deadline for the electronic submission of your year-end progress reports and required forms for the consortium development grantees is June 30, 2016. Your deadline for entering and submitting your budget revision in PGMS is July 31st, 2016. This is the same deadline as for all grantees. Next slide. Okay, so that concludes the budget revision portion of this webinar. Now we will take a few minutes to answer any questions that you may have. Please post your questions on the Q&A, and we will read them out loud and answer the questions. So we'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, so the first question that we received is wondering about documenting match. I'm going to refer you to our frequently asked question document regarding the questions. There's a couple of questions there regarding partner match. Documentation of in-kind match funding is the tangible evidence of CCPT activities and expenditures. So it's important to retain records to track and review information for future reference and program evaluation, provide historical evidence and proof of accomplishments, and prepare for an audit or other accountability measures. So it's important to also keep track of the deliverables that are outlined in the FAQ document. So please take a look at that FAQ document, and if you have any further questions regarding match, please send us an email. And then the next question is, Karen, is there anything that you would like to add regarding the match?
Just that it's important to maintain records of the match from both the district and from your community partners. At this point, we're not going to audit or ask for specific information, but that could happen in the future, so it's very important that you maintain those records.
Okay, so the next question is, who is my fiscal contact and how may I contact them? Okay, so the person who asked that question, if you can send us an email, we will be happy to send you the information of who your fiscal contact is, your program manager. I don't have that list off the top of my head at this point, but please send me an email and I will be very happy to send you the name and contact information of your fiscal contact. And send your email to careerpathways@cde.ca.gov. Okay, the next question is, are the budget revisions for fiscal year 2016 or fiscal year 2017? Oh, and then the follow-up question is, I meant 2015 or oops, I meant fiscal year 2015-16 or fiscal year 2016-17. So the budget revision, this is from our round, if you are a round 1 grantee, your budget revision will be for fiscal year-end report is fiscal year 15-16. You reported on your 14-15 expenditure as round 1. So if you have any changes to your fiscal year 15-16, then you would need to complete that budget revision, or if you're carrying over to the following year, you will also complete the fiscal year 2016-17. So, and if you want to do your budget revision for the entire, next couple of years and carry over, that is your opportunity to do so in this year-end reporting. Okay. Clear understanding of expectation of fiscal and year-end data reporting. That is our goal in today's webinar, is to go through the expectations and the process for fiscal and year-end data reporting. Karen will go over in details the data reporting on the last half of this webinar. The next question is, if we need to roll budget dollars from year 2 to year 3, I presume we'll be submitting 3 years worth of budget. The answer to your question is yes. If you're rolling over or carrying over funds from one year to the next, you will be submitting the budget for every year where there's any changes to your budget. Team, is there anything that you would like to add regarding that question? No? Okay. Okay, the last question is, to be sure I understand, narrative reports are due June 30th and budgets are due July 31st. No, so clarification. For the consortium development grantees, the 8 consortium development grantees, they have a separate reporting requirement, and that applies to the consortium development grantees, and they receive that instruction specifically to them, and those requirements and their reporting are due on June 30th. For all other grantees, the reporting on the budget is due July 31st. For the consortium development grantees, the PGMS budget reporting, logging in and entering budget onto the PGMS, they have until July 31st. Okay? So for all round 1, round 2 grantees, your budget revisions are due July 31st. And that applies to budget, okay? There's a separate deadline for the student momentum points, and Karen will go over that later on. Okay, I think Oh, there are more questions here, so give me a few moments to take a look at them and review them. Again, we're not going to get through all of your questions because of time. However, please be assured that we will answer all of these questions that we're not able to answer in today's webinar. We're receiving so many questions, and we only have a allotted number of time for the Q&A. Okay, this question is regarding the webinar is not accepting additional attendees. Can this issue be resolved? That would be a Susan Stewart question, and she's handling that. Okay, so this question is the 10% trigger for reporting budget revisions. A number of our partners will be carrying over funds into year 3. If that amount exceeds our year 2 allocation, do we have to submit a budget? Do we have to submit a request? Yes, you do. Okay, the next question is, can we carry over more than 10% into the next year if we submit in a budget revision letter? Yes, you may. And yes, you have to submit a formal budget revision. We anticipate that most of you, especially the bigger grantees, will be have a lot of carryover funds into the next year, or are transferring funds over 10% from one object code to another. So we anticipate that most of you will be submitting a budget revision, budget change revision letter. Just as a tip here, we do prefer that you submit your budget letter and your attached required documents first, and then we will review that and approve that, and before you submit your changes to PGMS. It's easier that way. That way you know it's been approved. And then whatever you put in your approved budget revision letter and documents will need to match what you enter on PGMS. Okay, the next question is when are progress reports due for CCPT round 1? July 31st. So the budget revision. Okay, so there are 3 required reporting requirements for this year. You have your budget reporting, and you have your narrative progress report and student momentum points. In this segment of the webinar, I'm specifically talking about deadlines for budget revision. The budget revision deadline is July 31st. Karen will go over the deadlines on the narrative progress report and student momentum points with you. Okay, the last question here that we're going to address is what is the URL for the latest version of the documents? We don't have the URL yet. We will be posting them on the digital chalkboard, and we also have sent you the documents via our Career Pathways as an email attachment. If you did not receive that and you would like to get those documents, please send us an email and we will be happy to send them to you again. Okay, so that concludes our question and answer period time allotted for the budget revision. And the next thing that I will review with you is the capital outlay. And the revised documents on capital outlay, we just clarified the capital outlay definition, and also there hasn't been any change to the process. We just in the document, we provided some reminders and clarified and expanded the document as a result of the questions that we have been receiving on capital outlays. And so that is the revised document that we have provided to you. So I'm going to go over this very quickly. Basically, capital outlay is any item of $5,000 or more pre-tax and shipping. And capital outlay purchases must meet all of the following requirements. The purchase must be directly related to a program approved for assistance with Pathway funds. It must be intended to improve and enhance or expand the Pathway program. It has to be necessary and reasonable for proper and efficient administration of the Pathway program. Must be added to the district's historical inventory system when received. And finally, it has to be specific to a pathway, your approved pathway program, as opposed to a general expense required to carry out the agency's responsibilities. So when we get the capital outlay request from you as fiscal agents, our expectation is you have reviewed those requests. If the LEA partner is requesting the capital outlay and sends the form over to you, that you have reviewed the capital outlay form and request for accuracy, and you have determined, you as a fiscal agent has determined that it met the following requirements prior to sending it to your assigned CCPT consultant for review. Next slide. Okay, so the next slide on capital outlay basically talks about the fiscal agent reviews all capital outlay requests, as I stated, and this applies to fiscal agent and consortium partner purchases again, and the request must be reviewed by us, the CDE consultant, prior to making any purchases. Please do not make any purchases or advanced purchases. We've had a couple of issues on this before. Please do not make any purchases until you've received a formal approval from your CDE consultant. Formal approval means receipt of the approval letter. Sometimes we get questions on the email on, you know, we're looking at doing this, can we do this, can we purchase this? And then we respond with, you know, seems like a reasonable request. That is not an approval. That is just providing you guidance. So we've been getting a lot of those, so we really want to clarify that an approval is receiving the formal letter. And Karen and I are pretty good about, as soon as we review the capital outlay request, we've been receiving pretty much hundreds in the last couple of months, and we appreciate your patience. Please allow 2 to 3 weeks for processing. But rather than you waiting for the signed letter in the mail, what we do is we send you a copy, a PDF copy of the approval on the email. So that's a formal approval, and then it's followed by a original copy in the mail addressed to your project director. Okay, so all capital outlay purchase equipments must be labeled as purchased with CCPT funds. You all are hopefully very aware of that. And it must be added to your equipment inventory record. We provided you with a sample inventory record in the email that you received a couple of days ago. Again, some of you have your own record keeping of inventory, so we don't have a very prescriptive, you have to use this. Again, those are just samples to assist you if you don't have an inventory record. And just a reminder, capital outlays are excluded from the indirect cost calculation on your budget. Okay, so that concludes the capital outlay segment of this webinar. Again, we will open it up for Q&A on capital outlays.
So Abby, you have a question on are only items 5,000 or more need to be inventoried? The template says it's $500.
Okay, so items 5,000 or more capital outlay needs to be approved. So you need to submit your formal capital outlay forms and quotes. Okay, oh, I forgot to mention that for capital outlays, when you submit the form, you have to submit a quote of that capital outlay request on a vendor letterhead, okay? Internet listing of the quote is not acceptable. So the question is, do we need to keep an inventory of items that are just 5,000 or more, or 500 or more? When we send the capital outlay when we send the capital outlay approval letter, the last paragraph of that specifically states that, as mandated in the Education Code, Section 35168, any equipment with a market value of 500 or more must be appropriately tagged in inventory. So that is, so short answer to your question is yes, any equipment with a market value of 500 or more needs to be accounted for in the inventory. So, okay, as far as the question is, as far as the label, we just need you to label the CCPT, the purchase equipment, as purchased with CCPT funds. So we don't provide or don't have an official label. How you label it, so long as it's labeled, is fine with us for CCPT. What is the lead time between submission and approval? As we stated, please allow 2 to 3 weeks for approval. If we need an additional, time, we will notify you. For the most part, again, depending on the workload, Karen and I are the only CCPT consultants, and capital outlay is, one of the aspects of our job that we do. So, for the most part, we turn them around pretty quickly within the same week or so, but it really just depends on, if we receive 60 capital outlay requests in 1 week, it'll take some time. So, again, but please allow 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, the question is, some of my disposables will exceed 500. Will that be a problem?
So those are usually items, consumable items that are used in programs. So we would not normally inventory those items.
Okay. No. Okay, so that's the answer to your question.
It's not a single item.
Right.
It's not a single item.
Yeah, items that need to be inventoried, it's something you would spend $500 on a single item. So we're assuming that you would not spend $500 on a disposable item.
Okay, so the next question is, what is the deadline for capital outlay submission? There isn't any deadline. We get them frequently. My suggestion is, because you're doing a end of the year report or year-end closeout, you can set a deadline for your LEAs to submit the capital outlay request. When you do your budget revision that's due July 31st, what you're doing for the year 15-16 is you're actually reporting your actual budget. So you had a proposed budget that was approved in 15-16. So at year end, you're reporting your actual budget, and that includes some, expenditures and capital outlay purchases. So I might recommend you to, set a deadline for your LEAs on capital outlays. Okay, so define inventory. So inventory, basically we provided you a log inventory sample of, what is information that you need to collect on your inventory. So please refer to that sample inventory sheet. If you have any specific questions regarding that, please, give me a call or send us an email.
And we got clarification on the question regarding disposables. So the question's related to serum that is purchased that costs more than $500. But you would not be able to inventory, so I'm assuming this is a biotech-related question or medical-related. So you would not be able to inventory serum, right? So it would not be an inventoried item.
Okay, so the last question on capital outlay before we move on is, For clarification on inventory record, market value of 500 or more is the same as the purchase price of items, including tax and shipping. It's before taxes, pre-tax and shipping. Okay, so that concludes the Q&A period for capital outlay. Again, as a reminder, I want to keep assuring you that we will provide responses to all the questions that we're seeing on here after this webinar. So if we did not get to your questions, please be assured that we will respond and we will provide you the responses to your questions. So now I'm going to turn you over to my tag team consultant, Karen Shores, who will talk to you about the year-end progress report. Karen?
Good morning. This is Karen Shores, the other half of the tag team. And I'm going to go over your progress reporting and your momentum points. The year-end progress report deadline is August 31st. It's different from the budget reporting, which was July 31st, or how many days in July? 30. No, 31st. Yes, okay. So deadline is August 31st. This includes the student momentum points and the consortium progress narrative, which includes progress, successes, challenges, and action steps. The consortium development grantees do not need to do this year-end progress report this year because they have not had a year of implementation yet. They will do that next year. Okay, the student momentum points are gleaned from the RFA. In the RFA for which you originally wrote your grant proposal, the measures that we collect data on were listed there. This data needs to be provided by the local education agency at the K-12 level and by the post-secondary agency that is partnering. You need to report on each approved pathway, and recently we asked you what your pathways were so that we could accurately post them into the PGMS system. Hopefully you all got back to us on that. Also, the definitions document that Abby attached to your recent email is important for you to look over because definitions change from program to program, and you're going to want to make sure you understand the concepts that we're asking for data on. Obviously, you enter your data on the PGMS system, but we highly recommend that you keep a copy of this data for yourself. This year, our PGMS system had some problems, and we still don't know what data we will be able to recover that was entered while we were having the problem back in January. So please keep that data for your own records and for our sake so that we can re-enter it if we need to. Okay, let's start with what's in the momentum points. First, the number of students enrolled in the pathway. And a pathway is considered a logical sequence of courses of career technical education and academic courses that leads to a post-secondary program, employment, training. And it's in the 4 categories: first year, second year, third year, and fourth year students. Student academic performance indicators of students enrolled in the career pathway. We thought about this a lot as to what we actually meant by that, and we definitely want information on the student performance on standardized tests. That's one category that everybody knows, and we can compare data from project to project. We also want student career and college readiness measures that you're using within your local education agency. That's different per LEA. And then other measures of student progress that are specific to each pathway. For example, if your pathway students achieve a particular credential or certification. That's important to know too. We're not at this point requesting the actual data. That we need you to keep so that we can examine it at a future time. What we want to know is what are the indicators that you are collecting data on. So please list those in this section. Number 3, the number of students who have successfully completed a career pathway program with a C grade or better in all pathway courses. This would be not only in the career technical education courses, but also in English, history, math, science, and the regular academic programs. Now this data is only on completers. That would be students that completed the sequence of courses at the K-12 level, and hopefully at the post-secondary level we can get that information also. Number of students participating in the job shadowing opportunities aligned with the career pathway program. Job shadowing is an observation experience. It is not participating in the activities of the work, it is observing the professional in the field. Number of students participating in mentoring opportunities. A mentor is a professional, a friend in the field who provides advice and helps the student understand the field. Mentoring can be no less than 3 hours and no more than 25 hours in one semester. Some mentoring opportunities, however, last a full year or more. Number of students participating in internships aligned with the career pathway. Internship is for the benefit of the intern, but does not displace regular workers. It is under close supervision of the existing staff and with a work plan from the supervising instructor. This can be paid or unpaid internships, and usually it's 3 to 5 weeks and usually no more than 6 weeks duration. Number of students participating in work experience aligned with the pathway. This combines on-the-job with related classroom instruction. This exposes students to real work, and again, they're not displacing workers. They are doing real work, but it's under the supervision of someone in the workplace and with a work plan from their instructor. Number of students participating in pre-apprenticeship programs aligned with the career pathway program. Pre-apprenticeships are available in some of the career pathways, not all of them, and they prepare students for post-secondary apprenticeship programs. Number of students participating in an apprenticeship program. This is not very common at the secondary level because many apprenticeships require that students be 18 years or older, but it is possible, particularly if you have some older senior students that are transferring from a pre-apprenticeship to an apprenticeship program. Number of students participating in, what happened? There. Number of students participating in a student leadership organization. This could be one of the recognized career technical student organizations, or it could be another state or national organization in a particular pathway. There is not a CTSO for every pathway, but there are other organizations. Number of students in the career pathway program who received a high school diploma. This can be a high school diploma by the LEA or a high school equivalency certificate. Number of students who received an industry recognized certificate or license. That is possible in many of our career pathways. Usually, however, it requires transferring to a post-secondary institution to continue your education and meet the qualifications for those certifications. Number 13, we do not have a state-approved career technical education certificate, so just write not applicable there. That's the easiest one to answer. Okay, additional information. What is the course sequence? What kind of student supports are you providing for your students? This can be career guidance. This can be assistance with post-secondary transitions. This could be assistance with successful course completion. And it could be for preparation for post-secondary education. What professional development is being provided for your teachers? And then, is collaboration time made available for the pathway teachers to meet with each other? And is collaboration time made available and encouraged to work with their post-secondary partners? All right, let's move on to post-secondary education. Number of students enrolled in the Career Pathway program. We already went over that. Number of students and their credits earned in dual credit enrollment courses aligned with the Career Pathway program. Dual courses can be academic or career technical education, but they have to be directly related to the career pathway. Number of students and credits earned in credit by exam opportunities aligned with the pathway. This can be a direct exam given by the post-secondary organization, or it could be an exam at the end of an articulated course, similar to dual credit, but does require the final exam passing with a particular grade. Number of students who completed one credit-bearing CTE course aligned with the pathway, self-explanatory, and number of students who completed two credit-bearing courses aligned with the career pathway. Number of students who completed a career pathway and achieved an Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, or a transfer degree in that career pathway. Number of students participating in job shadowing, we went over that. Number of students participating in mentoring, we went over that. Number of students participating in internships aligned with the pathway, and number of students participating in work experience aligned with the pathway. No different in those requirements for those categories than in the secondary level explanation. Number of students participating in pre-apprenticeship programs aligned with the pathway and aligned with an apprenticeship program. This is probably more prevalent at the post-secondary level. And number of students participating in an apprenticeship program aligned with the pathway, very prevalent at the post-secondary level. Number of students participating in student leadership organizations, again, that would be CTSOs, or it could be another organization designed for a particular pathway. And number of students in the career pathway who transition to a 4-year college or university. Number of students who received an associate degree not aligned to the pathway. That would be students who went through the pathway program, but their degree is in some other field. Number of students in the pathway who entered into employment aligned with the pathway. Number of students in the pathway who entered into training aligned to the pathway. Number of students who received an industry-recognized certificate or license. Hopefully this is happening a lot at the post-secondary level. And number of students in the pathway who received a Chancellor's Office Certificate of Achievement or Performance. This would be less than an associate degree, but the certificate's offered at most community colleges. Additional questions for post-secondary partners. Are the pathway college courses aligned to the K-12 feeder pathway courses? Does this pathway offer stackable certificates, and please describe those? Are students in the pathway provided with regularly occurring supports for career guidance and counseling, successful course completion, and movement into employment? And are instructors in the pathway provided with opportunities for externships with teachers, for professional development time, and for time for collaboration between themselves, the community college instructors in the pathway, and to their K-12 partners. Okay, it's question time. The momentum point concerning grade of C or above, if the student receives an A in the first semester and a D in the second, how would that be quantified with respect to the count? Also, if the student participated in more than one course in an academic year, i.e. 2 history courses, would this be 2 counts? Second point is easy. That would be 2 courses. You would report on both courses. The first one, use your discretion. An A and a D actually average out to a C minus, so give them credit for it. Are the students participating in post-secondary only counted if they were previously counted as participants in an aligning K-12 pathway program, or are these 2 cohorts counted independently? They are counted independently. When do you start counting for the momentum points? October 1st of last year? You would count the 15-16 academic school year. That would be from whenever your school started, probably August or September, until the end of the school year.
Someone also asked a question regarding summer participation. So the question regarding is summer participation in the CCPT pathway courses or work-based learning activities counted in the prior year or new school year? So the answer to that is that summer participation should be counted in the year prior to the summer school. Back to Karen.
Okay, is the attached FAQ for student momentum points number 10? The deadline referenced is September 30th. Do you have a copy of that?
Yes, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We need to update that one. I think we were not able to update that one. So it should have said that the deadline is October 31st, 2016. And also in the later years, we plan on keeping the date of October 31st as the deadline for the submission of data and progress report. Thank you for catching that, and we will correct that.
Okay, go back to the first part. Okay, there's a question here. The student is in a pathway. Student completes a certificate. Certificate completion wasn't offered by the pathway. If it's not part of the pathway program, you would not report that certificate. If they did it on their own, and it is related to the pathway, then perhaps we should consider offering it within the pathway, but you would not report on it until you do. Okay, are we to submit data for momentum points only for those students who completed an application for the program, or for any students enrolled at your college who have completed a specific set of courses aligned to the pathway? If the students at your college are enrolled in the pathway courses, you would count them. Whether or not they completed an application, it seems to me that if an application is required to be in the pathway, then you would have that information about all of your students. But if they're enrolled in the courses and you didn't get an application, you can retroactively ask for that application. If the data includes the entire universe, let me read this. If the data includes the entire universe of students at our campus, we won't be able to report on work-based learning opportunities as we don't have direct access to them. Of course, we will check to determine if the students who signed up for the program have taken the requisite set of courses. I'm not understanding this question, but if I'm the instructor for a sequence of courses in a career pathway, I know who my students are. If the work-based learning opportunities are being managed by another department in your organization, you might have a survey for those students that you teach regularly and ask them what work-based learning opportunities they're participating in. That will give you that information. Otherwise, you can collaborate with the work-based learning coordinator and get that information. Next. Wow.
While Karen is going through that, I'm going to go ahead and this question that we were asked to repeat. Please repeat what was said about the October 31st deadline. What is due October 31st? The deadline for data submission is August 31st, not October 31st. So just to clarify, the deadline for the progress narrative report, the student momentum point data report is August 31st, 2016.
Okay, regarding dual enrollment at post-secondary level, how to correlate number of students to number of credits earned. Example, 20 students at 3 units each. Is that 60 units or 3 units? I would simply say 20 students times 3 units. And that way we get a clear example of what is actually happening. I know some of the courses are 5 units each. K-12 and community colleges differ in how they typically count summer terms. This may be challenging for community colleges. If you have a specific challenge, please email Abby and I, and we will work through that with you. We realize they're two very different cultures, and that we're trying to make it simple, but sometimes simplicity doesn't work. So give us a call or send us an email, and we will work through it individually with you. If there are 3 to 4 required courses for a pathway and additional optional courses, do we count only the required courses or optional courses as well to call the students who have completed a pathway with a C or better? Actually, I would just count the required courses because those are the required courses, but it really depends on the pathway. Sometimes, you know, we have intro courses, we have concentrator courses, and we have capstone courses. So you would assume that the students who are completers will have taken an intro course, a concentrator course, and a capstone course at the very least. Sometimes the capstone and the concentrator are the same, and in that case, if there's only 2 courses in the pathway, that's okay too, but it really depends on the pathway. And then a lot of times you will have additional optional courses in which students can concentrate their specific area of interest, but those are additional concentrator courses. So the students who complete a pathway would be intro, concentrator, and capstone. Next. I should clarify, for secondary programs, if the brand new pathway is only in its 2nd year of implementation, there will be no pathway completers to report. Is it okay to report that there's no completers? Yes, definitely. If you're doing it sequentially and and you don't have the full pathway in operation, you would not have any completers yet. Please be honest with us. That's the end of our time for answering these questions. As Abby has mentioned, we will make sure that they are all posted on my digital chalkboard so that you will have an opportunity to see all of the answers to your questions. Abby will now introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen, and some very great questions that you guys have over here. Again, we will make sure that we answer all the questions, and we will post them when they are ready. Now I just want to take a moment to introduce Louise Taimet, and she is our the CCPT Program Manager for the CRANE Consortium. And in fact, we are actually doing this webinar at the Sacramento County Office of Education here. So want to thank Louise for helping us out with that. And Louise will also share some strategies that they have implemented along the lines of data collection, data reporting, or budget, or anything that she feels would be worthwhile sharing to all of you guys. So Louise, welcome and thank you.
Sure, I'm going to leave some time for questions, so I just want to give folks some hints, and particularly those of you that have consortiums, because that's the world I've been dealing in, but certainly this transfers to individual programs also. So starting with those momentum points, my advice to consortiums in particular is do not just send this lovely document out to your consortium members. This just muddies the water. Start first with what do you already know, what have you already been keeping track of. Don't ask for those things. You've already got that. For us, we built a database to capture all the information about work-based learning. I'm not going to ask them for that again. I already have that. And then look at each of those momentum points and really translate that more into a query, because ultimately what you want the district people to do is just query their student database to get you exactly what you want. So if you leave it up to their interpretation, they might interpret it differently than what you want. So just ask for exactly what you want. We need the number of students that, and keep it simple. The other thing is that then we built a spreadsheet once we have a 22-member consortium. Once we got the information back, it just dumps right into the spreadsheet, and then it does all the calculations. So we have all the information put together. The more you, and some of you may be on this webinar that are not fiscal agents. Again, my advice to you, the more information you give your consortium members about all of this, the more likely you are to have very confused consortium members. So as a fiscal agent, take charge of it, translate it, ask for exactly what you need, and then it makes your life a lot easier. So keep it simple. Yes, it's more work, or it seems like more work as the fiscal agent to not just forward documents. In the long run, we're a year one consortium. We've made these mistakes already, and it is a problem. So I didn't invite any of my 22 consortium members to be on this call today because this is for fiscal agents. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. The other thing I will offer is we have a team going down, as you all do, down to CCPT down in San Diego. And I am happy to make myself available to answer any questions and help out with specific issues. That's coming up, so there would be some time. But I would encourage you, and if Tammy wants to set that up on the schedule, maybe with a room or something, we'll do that and let you know. Either that or just find me. You buy me a drink, I'll answer anything. No, I'm kidding. But the other thing is that the sooner you get this out, I mean, you well know that if you're part of a consortium or even dealing as an individual district, the sooner you start working on this, the better, right? The end of May, I lose half of my districts. So get this information out early. Give people strict deadlines. Expect them to miss the deadline. Be ready to bombard them. You may need to be mean. Get used to it. I have threatened a couple districts with, that inventory belongs to CCPT, so if you guys don't want to do this, then we'll come get your new $75,000 computer lab. But you have to have this information in order to do a complete report. And this is vital information. It's not about trying to look good. It's about trying to be honest with the information so that we can have this data as a state to inform legislators and other folks that control the future of our funding as to whether pathways are really making a difference or not. So, yeah, do what it takes to get it, folks. I start with nice, but I can end up in mean. And I'm happy to take any questions.
We've got a comment from Ashley. Tulare Kings appreciates your comments, Louise. And they have also built a work-based learning data platform,
yeah.
And they do only ask their districts for what they need, and they use SurveyMonkey to do that.
That is great. I know another local district or a local consortium, CAP, does the same thing, and they have had great success with SurveyMonkey. Again, keep it simple. People appreciate that.
Any other questions for Louise? If so, go ahead and post those. I also want to remind you, those of you who are coming down to the CCPT Institute next week, Abby and Karen have office hours for technical assistance. They have 2 hours set aside. We're scheduling appointments for that. I know we have several appointments still available. So I will send that link back out to all the project directors regarding the technical assistance office hours. So that would be a great opportunity for you to talk to them in person and get answers to your questions. Some of the questions that came through needed clarification, so it would be a great opportunity to have that conversation. Let's see. Looks like we have. Question is, what does the work-based learning data platform capture and how? They're very curious. So that's a question, I think. Do you have a work-based learning platform?
Yeah. We do, and Tulare Kings is different. We each took our own take on it. We capture all of the work-based learning activities that were mentioned in the momentum points by individual student, and so we can, at the end of whatever year, look by individual student, but we can also capture all the composite data for all of the work-based learning activities. And then also, that really helps us with our matching funds report, because we know how many hours that industry has invested in those work-based learning experiences, and we can just quickly multiply that by 75, and we know how many hours, so we know the amount for our matching funds report, at least in that aspect.
Question, please describe the extent of participation you've received from your post-secondary partners and how you've made contact with their key data personnel.
I am really fortunate to have a wonderful data person here at Sac County office that I'm working with, and she is actually working directly with the Launch Board folks, and so we are using Launch Board to capture the post-secondary information. So the data people are working together, which makes life much easier.
Okay. We don't see any other questions for Louise. We're going to give you the gift of time and conclude the webinar early. Just a couple of reminders. This webinar has been recorded. It will be placed on my digital chalkboard. I will be sending out information to the project directors to share with everybody on the call on how to access my digital chalkboard and all the information that's going to be made available there. I'd like to thank Abby and Karen and Louise for participating this morning in the webinar. Again, next week is a great opportunity to meet with Karen and Abby and talk to them about your specific questions. We will make sure that all your questions are addressed. You'll receive that information via email. If you have additional questions, please email them to the career pathways at cde.ca.gov. And also, please complete, there's a very short survey at the end of this presentation. It's populating now. Please help us by giving us your comments and your feedback.